name is Zoe, and we are going to be making Swedish sweetbread.
It's a great holiday tradition. I'm Jen, I'm Zoe's mom. We'll be working together in the kitchen today. We already got a little bit started just to give us a little bit of a jump start. In this pan here we have 2.5 cups of whole milk, which we are scalding. When you scald something, that basically means you bring it just about to the boiling point until small bubbles appear across the top. Putting the heat back on right now so we can get to working on that. While that is scalding over there, Zoe is holding up a small container of freshly ground cardamom. Cardamom is a spice. It comes in, you can buy it ground already, but I always find it better if you buy the whole cardamom pods. And then you can use any blender or food processor to just grind those up. We're using about 40 pods for our recipe, ground finely. We use a magic bullet to grind those up, but you can use pretty much any blender or food processor that you have.
And we already melted 3 sticks of butter.
That's right, for a total of 1.5 cups of butter. That's right, folks, this is not the lowest fat bread in the world, but it sure is yummy around the holidays. So what we're going to do is once that milk is scalded, which it's pretty close now, you got to move it every once in a while so it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Once that milk is scalded, we will add the 1.5 cups of butter that Zoe melted. We will add the 40 ground up cardamom pods.
One cup of sugar.
1 cup of sugar. And 1 teaspoon of good old-fashioned salt. That'll do that. So right now we're just waiting for the milk to scald. And it looks like it's just about there. So Zoe, do you want to start adding?
Yep.
All right.
So what should we add in first?
It's up to you. We have to add all of those things. Just going to shut the heat off.
We'll start with the cardamom.
And there's the cardamom. That has a really wonderful smell to it, right, Zoe? Mm-hmm. And there goes the cup of sugar. And give that a little bit of a stir. The sugar will dissolve in the milk.
The butter?
Yep, you can put in the whole thing of butter. Just be careful when you pour that in. We melted that in the microwave. It does seem like a lot of butter. Do keep in mind that this will make like 4 small loaves of bread. Can you dump it a little more? There you go. I'm going to dump the rest of that out. There you go. Nice job. Alright, and if you get the 1/2 teaspoon measure, we'll add that 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
Where is it?
Let's see. Probably don't want to look in my drawer. You can watch that on the stove while we look for our 1/2 teaspoon. There you go. So Zoe's going to measure out a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Do that right over the sink. Make sure it's flat. There you go. Perfect. And put that right in there too. Nice job. Alright, we are going to mix all that up. Now, basically what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit until it's finger warm. Finger warm means it's still pretty darn hot, but you can put your finger in it without getting burned. So clearly it's important to have clean hands before you do this, so I want you to go ahead and give your hands a good scrub. Make sure you dry them real good. So I'm just mixing this together now to make sure it's pretty thoroughly combined. The butter is going to kind of tend to want to stay at the top, so mix it quite a bit. It'll blend pretty nicely. When I was a little girl, I had a great aunt named Corinne, who we called Auntie Tor for some reason. And Auntie Tor was from Sweden. And whenever you would go to her house at any time of year, she would always have this in the freezer. And she would make it with black coffee. And you'd sit and have Swedish sweetbread and coffee. The thing about Swedish sweetbread, if you've had sweetbreads before, you'll find that Swedish sweetbread is actually less sweet than like a Portuguese sweetbread would be or many other traditional sweetbreads. Really what makes this the sweetest is going to be the crushed sugar cubes we're going to put on the top right towards the end. So give that a test. Is it too hot?
That's Nice and
Finger warm. Okay. Now that we are finger warm, can you hold this for a second? Now that we're finger warm, what we're going to do is we're going to grab some yeast, and we're going to add yeast. We're going to grab some yeast. Guys, go play in the family room, okay? We have 3 other little ones here today, guys. Our 3 other kids. So it'll be a little rowdy in the background. All right, what I'm going to add now is going to be 4½ teaspoons of just regular old active dry yeast. Not rapid rise, just regular yeast. This is what's going to give the bread its height. 4½ teaspoons is the equivalent of 2 packages if you're buying the prepackaged.
It's really tough to stretch, but that's all the yeast that we're going to put in.
Yeah, it does make for a relatively dense bread, so when you go to roll it out, you will find it is a little tricky to stretch it. Okay, I'll get you some milk, Randy. Alright, so do you want to give that a stir? Keep your eye on where your camera is. Yeah, I'll get you some milk, please. Just keep stirring that for a couple of seconds as well, and then we are going to go on to our next step, which is going to be mixing that with the flour.
That's a very nice smell.
Cardamom has a good spicy smell. When you mix it with sugar in particular, it just makes for a really lovely scent to the bread. When you bake, your kitchen is going to smell heavenly.
This is the bread that we made a few days ago.
Not much left. It was a giant loaf, but you can see it has a nice shine to it thanks to an egg wash, and there's crumbled sugar and slivered almonds on the top. So you'll see ours when we start to roll them out.
Almonds and stuff like that.
And it looks delicious. All right, so if you'd like to get one of the largest mixing bowls out of the cabinet, let's take a look at this. So this is going to sit for at least 10 minutes. That gives the yeast a chance to do its thing. You'll see it'll start to get a little bit foamy. Right now we're still looking pretty level, but as that yeast warms up and starts to dissolve, some foam will start to form across the top of the butter. Let's get rid of these. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Actually, we need the bigger one, that big one on the bottom. Right here. Right here. This one. This size bowl is not going to be quite big enough. You're going to add about 8 cups of flour, sometimes even 9, depending on where you live, your altitude, the humidity, kind of all the things that make bread making just a little bit tricky. This one is really a pretty simple bread. All right. So I like to use a combination of bread flour and good old regular all-purpose flour whenever I make a bread. This flour in particular, the bread flour, is really good if you're using a bread machine. This is a hand bread, so it's equally okay to use just regular all-purpose flour. Frankly, the all-purpose flour is going to be a lot cheaper, stretches a lot further. Bread flour, really the main difference is in the milling. This has more of a fine mill to it, so it can make for a lighter bread with a better rise.
I need the knife. Cabinet.
While we're going here, speaking of sweet bread, so he's going to give some to the baby. All right, so what I'm going to do here is, first I'm going to put 1 full cup of regular old all-purpose flour into our bowl. I think Zoe's probably going to have some. You having some there too, kiddo?
Yep.
All right. Yum! We are getting ready for Christmas here. Christmas is in about, what, 4 days now? 5 days. Christmas is 5 days away. Big holiday for us. All right, so here's 1 cup of flour. And to that 1 cup of flour, we are going to add this entire bucket. Oh, here we go. If you look now, see, you can see some of the foam starting to form in the top of the butter. That's the yeast activating. That means it's doing its thing. It's good fresh yeast. It'll give our bread a good rise. We're going to add this entire pan of liquid to the flour. Clearly, this won't be enough flour to make loaves of bread, but it's where we start. there's a kind of a careful balance here, because if you over mix bread, it tends to get really dense. It's my biggest downfall. I end up with really dense bread all the time. But we at least want to blend it a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead, put in that 1 cup. How's that bread taste, Zoe?
Amazing.
All right, let's see it. Ooh, yummy. All right. So here we go. And Violet, what do you think about the bread? What do you think? Violet, is your bread yummy? Oh, I think the beagle is interested in the bread too. Hi, Biscuit. Are you looking for bread? Are you looking for bread? Let's see. Give him a little piece. What do you think?
Okay.
Ready, Biscuit? You want to try it? Zoe will give you some. Oh, yum. Biscuit says, yay, it's good. Okay. All right, so that's 1 cup of flour. We are going to get up. I seem to use about 8 cups of flour on average for this recipe, so I'm going to go ahead and add a whole 2nd cup right now. Thank you, Zoe. That's a big help. All right. So here comes the 2nd cup of flour. We got 2 in there. You get a... All right, here goes the 2nd cup. Here goes the 2nd cup. Focus. There goes your 2nd cup. All right, so we got 2 cups of flour in there. Now, as you can see, it's still really watery. Obviously, not a bread dough. Not even close. Now we're going to switch over to the bread flour. And put a whole cup of that. And we're up to 3 cups. Usually around the 4th or 5th, it starts to get a little stickier. Your goal here, if you're doing this right now at home or you're thinking about doing it soon, you want the bread to pull away from the sides of the bowl. So we're going to go for our 4th cup here. We're going to use another cup of bread flour. And we have twins. The other one wants some. All right. There goes cup number 4. They are 2. They're very busy. We're a homeschooling family, so we're all together all the time, which is really wonderful. And we like to bake. Right, kiddo? We like to bake, kiddo? Yeah. I think baking is one of the best things you can do with your children. It's a great way to teach them the science of measurement, teach them some basic math, kitchen math. Obviously science. There's 5. Especially with bread. Bread is a great science experiment, because if you try making the same bread without yeast, you get something that's about as flat as a pancake. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. Pretty soon we're going to have to switch from using a spoon to mix this to using our hands. So, do you want to add the next cup of flour? We're up to 5 right now.
Oh, of course. Wow.
Cup is right in the bag. It's getting thick, right? Nope, big.
Oh, the...
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Sorry. So this will be your 6th cup.
How many cups do you need?
Usually 8, but we're going to do 1 at a time.
That's a lot of flour.
Okay, so this is going to make quite a bit of bread.
It's a Christmas present for someone.
Who is this a Christmas present for, Zoe? Do you remember? Who were you making bread for this year? Yep, our cousin Carolyn, who's also Zoe's godmother. And for our friend Janet, who's kind of an official aunt, so we call her Auntie Janet. And also one for Zoe's grandmother, her nanny. Alright, I think you can go ahead and put another one in there. That'll be 7. Leave the cup in the bag, the flour bag. Now, while she's adding that cup there, I'm going to go ahead and grab another pot. And the reason being, as big as that mixing bowl is, it will not be big enough once this bread rises. So we're going to switch from giant mixing bowl to even bigger.
Now Now, can I use hands now because it's kind of...
Yep. So pull up your sleeves. So we washed her hands so they're nice and clean. And she's realized that her bread is now a little bit too thick to mix with a spoon.
This is really warmed up.
Nice and warm. Feels good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially on a cold day. It's mighty cold here. We live in Rhode Island, in New England. So our winters get pretty cold. Not as cold as they do further up north, but cold enough. So you're up to 7 cups there, Zoe?
Yes. Maybe 6.
Nope, 7.
7? Okay. Alright, I bet we can use
I
more.
think you can put one more in there. Mind if I join
Stretchy.
you?
It sort of sticks, but not a lot.
So we're not there yet. Why don't you grab another cup of flour? We're getting there. Making bread is not for people who don't like to get their hands a little bit dirty.
This is our 8th cup. No, this is our 7th cup.
8th.
8?
Cup.
Okay.
Yep, that's our 8th cup of flour. What we're going to do once we get this all ready and in our big bowl and ready to rise, we'll take a short break and we'll come back in about an hour. It takes about an hour. What you want to do once you get this all kneaded together and transferred to your rising bowl is usually to let it rise for about an hour till it's approximately double in size. You okay, Violet? Can you mix with one hand and hold with the other for a minute when I check on the baby? What's up, kiddo? Yeah, Mama's hands on it. There we go. Coming in. How's it feeling?
Better.
It's starting to look better. I think we may need that 8th cup of, that 9th cup of flour today. It's feeling sticky. It's a little warmer out this time than it was last time I made this a couple days ago. Yep, why don't you go ahead, instead of a whole cup this time, let's try a half cup.
Okay. Sticky.
Very sticky. You don't want it to be this sticky because you won't be able to work with it after. There's a couple of things you can do with this. We're going to make a traditional braided loaf, which I think they're really pretty to make nice gifts. But it's also popular to take your braids at the end and shape them into a wreath. Yep, that's good. Let's try that, see where we're at. So you can shape them into a wreath, which is really pretty. It's nice for putting out on a holiday table. And then the third option is to make like buns, almost like a cinnamon bun, only without the cinnamon. You can, by the way, use the same exact dough to make a cinnamon bun, and they're super delicious, super fattening too, I'm sure, but that's okay. It's almost Christmas. All right, let's see. Can you hold this for 1 second? Mm-hmm. Let me jump in. So you don't want to overhandle your dough. So there comes a point where you just kind of want to expedite your process. So now we're going to turn and punch. My great aunt that used to make this had terrible arthritis in her fingers, and she always said that the only thing that kept her hands moving and working so that she was still able to do her handwork, her sewing, her knitting, and her baking, cooking, the only thing that kept her fingers flexible enough to do that was the bread making that she did. So if you have arthritis, or if you have a lot of arthritis in your family and you think it's probably headed your way, this is a good exercise for you. More fun than working with the putty stuff you can get from a therapy place, that's for sure. And you get to eat your product at the end, which is always nice. How's that bread? Almost gone. Take a shot of your almost gone bread. All right, this. See how it pulls right away from the side of the bowl? See that, Zoe?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want. So what we're going to do now, it's nice and smooth. Is we're just going to transfer this to this big bowl over here. Take a shot of that. And then very simply, I'm going to take a nice clean kitchen towel and we're going to cover it. We're going to set our timer for 1 hour. And we'll come back, we'll check back in an hour, we'll see what it looks like. All good?
Yep.
All right, can you plug it in?